Well, apologies to all my fellow Colorado folks, to all the Nuggets fans. I mean, of course, this is probably one of the last things that you want to remember from last night, but it's certainly the last thing that you remember from last night if you were watching. But yeah, as it's happened. Minnesota Timberwolves are now moving on. They'll be hosting the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. This is crazy to think about right now because I honestly I felt like this was probably going to go either which way. I felt like if nothing else, Denver should have won the series. They definitely had their opportunities. I would have to say that they probably unleashed a little bit more of their load than what they wanted to. But yeah, it was everything I was expecting it to be. It was tough. I didn't think there was going to be a sweep at all. I wasn't sure how far it was going to go. Um, this is the best version of the Minnesota Timberwolves that we're getting right now. The best version of this dude, Anthony Edwards, that we're getting. And I don't know any other way to look at it, but there were people that were saying, let's stop with the Jordan comparisons. I don't think that's going to happen, especially now because he just led the Wolves to dethroning the reigning defending champions. At least no longer, anyway. And that's just something that we've got to take into consideration. Multiple 40-point games throughout the playoffs is something else that we need to be thinking about here. I mean, this man, and they were just talking about it on First Take earlier, is legitimately the face of the league now, or at least is becoming that. And I just can't look at it any other way. I know I'll go a little bit more into the series itself into detail here in a bit, but I just want to switch gears a little bit and yeah, talk about what we saw yesterday to start the day, at least in the NBA, which was the Indiana Pacers actually going into Madison Square Garden, taking out the New York Knicks, who say what you will about the injuries and everything that came along with it, and it didn't really get too much better for him throughout. I mean, Josh Hart, excuse me, ended up leaving Game 6. I want to say it was pretty early, actually, and he didn't play Game 7. Jalen Brunson didn't make it through Game 7, actually left in the third quarter, so it got to a point to where there was just, it got to being too much. The Pacers are an incredibly deep, athletic, and really, really good sized team. I mean, you look at the lineup that they have, I mean, they're pretty much similar to what the Nuggets have been known to be. There's length all across the board, from McConnell to Halliburton. I want to say it's Neesmith that's a starting small forward, with Pascal Siakam, who's 6'10", 6'11", and 7-footer in Miles Turner. I mean, you got a pretty potent starting five, and that bench is no joke either. I mean, I'm not going to go trying to name them off the top of my head because I can't at the moment. But this is something that I got to say, which is very much a common thing with the Timberwolf team, because they're young and they're out to make a point. I don't know necessarily how we're going to see them do against the Celtics, and I'll talk about that in an upcoming video probably later today. But I'm of the mindset at this point that I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pacers shift momentum into their favor at some point in the series. I don't necessarily think that's going to be what happens. We'll see. But it's going to be real interesting. We'll talk about that more in the day and the hours to come in the next couple days. But more than that, I just want to highlight the New York Knicks, who just, like I said, they had it a little bit rough. Of course, watching the press conference from last night with Mike Malone, he talked about the Nuggets being worn out. I mean, it was worse than that, as I mentioned before with the Knicks. You lose Mitchell Robinson. I mentioned Josh Hart. I think, oh goodness, there's another name I'm wanting to think about right now that isn't coming to mind. Obviously, Julius Robinson is another name that really hurts if you don't have him available, and that's been proven pretty much throughout his time as a New York Knick. But all the same, I don't think any of this should be indicative, and this is actually true for a lot of teams, but certainly with the New York Knicks. I mean, they definitely had potential to be a threat here when it comes to the championship. And for those of you that are Knicks fans, I would have to say that I would find some significant encouragement from what you got this year, and it's only going to get better. Hopefully you can get guys to stay healthy. Now, of course, that also goes into, does Tom Thibodeau need to look into altering how he goes about things, because, you know, it's a lot of what he did in Chicago. And it's interesting, I'm wearing red today, or at the moment, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But we're gonna shift right back into the Western Conference semifinal series with the Wolves and the Nuggets. Again, I just mentioned it. Mike Malone talked about it in the press conference. The Nuggets were clearly worn out, and it's funny because watching the game early, you know, it was shaky on both sides. Nobody was really finding the basket the way that you would expect either side to be able to do, at least according to the standards that each side has set. And these are particularly high standards, especially now in Minnesota's case. And it was proven that obviously if they were going to win this series, which they did, they were going to have to play to a higher standard, which they did. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think about the way that the game went, you know, early on, like I said, it was shaky on both sides offensively. But Denver looked like they were starting to find it, especially Jamal Murray, who strung off about 2 or 3 in a row, or at least 3 out of 4 shots in the first quarter. And they ended up even being up as many, I think, as 28, I think, at one point. It might have been a little less than that. They actually had their foot on the gas for a while. However, things started changing in the third quarter, and it got to a point to where that lead that was once inflated just went away. And when you get to that point, a lot of things change. A lot of things change, and we've seen it throughout history. I mean, I've talked about being a Bulls fan. I think about the second of the 6 championships, where Game 6, Portland went in the fourth quarter up 17, and MJ and them, you know what they did. I mean, that's why he's MJ, and that's why this dude is this dude. I mean, take nothing away from the Nuggets, they're not going to be out of the picture by any means. I would dare say that coming off the championship last year, it's not going to be the last one. There's certainly going to need to be some retooling. They're going to need to fill the voids left behind by Bruce Bowen and Jeff Green. I'm not sure how they're going to go about doing that. They got some good youngsters, but they're definitely going to have to grow up quick. And maybe they bring in another veteran body. Who knows how much longer they'll have DeAndre Jordan in the fold. So those are things that have to be considered with this team. But they're definitely not out of it in the long term, even though they're out of it this year. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. I mean, is AE the face of the league? I certainly think so. And well, y'all know what I've said about it. Y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for coming through to check me out. And I'll catch y'all around, man.